Hey everybody, welcome to the Columbus Wired postgame recap. I'm Andy Evans and, well, they got it done. The Buckeyes got it done. They got it done in stunning fashion. It may have been a weird one at times. Might not have been sure what we were looking at for the entirety of the 60 minutes, but the Buckeyes get it done. They stay undefeated, and more than likely they're going to stay number 2 in the country after a beatdown of the 3-3 Iowa Hawkeyes in front of a 104,848 person crowd by a final score of 54-10. Buckeyes came in favored by 29.5, just as a joke in the pregame preview. Kind of as a joke, but I thought, how fitting would it be if Ohio State kind of flipped the script and beat Iowa by a final score of 55-24, which was, of course, the final score after the 2017 game. And they literally almost did that. 44-point win. That's the most points scored against Iowa by the Buckeyes since a 56-35 win in 1995, and it's the third most ever against Iowa in the entire 100-year 64 previous meetings between the two teams. Now, the highest amount of points scored ever against Iowa came in 1950, where the Buckeyes scored 83 here in the Horseshoe. I mean, they've scored a lot of points in the past, but 83, I'm not sure that they're ever going to score that amount of points against the Hawkeyes, but still 54 points scored today. That 44-point margin was the most since a 49-0 pasting that the Buckeyes put on the Hawkeyes in 1975. So, 49-point win. It was a shutout in 1975. That was before I was even born. So it's been that long since the Buckeyes scored this amount of points. Well, not that long. They scored 56 in 1995, and I was actually here in the shoe for that game. Not as a reporter, but as a young spectator. I won't go into the details of it, but it was a fun game nonetheless. But the 44-point margin of victory, the most since 1975. Unbelievable. And 54 points scored is the most ever that Kirk Ferentz has allowed any team to ever score on one of his teams. Not just Ohio State, but ever. In his 24-year coaching history, never has Kirk Ferentz given up 54 points in a single game. But this was nuts. I mean, was it seriously not one of the weirder games that you've seen? I mean, if you were to just look at the score, and you were to go, all right, 54-10. Yeah, I mean, Ohio State, they crushed them, which, I mean, they did, I guess, but they kind of didn't. 8 turnovers in this game. 8 between both teams. Now, the Buckeyes didn't share the majority of that. That was Iowa, who had 6 turnovers in the game, but the Buckeyes still turned it over twice. And what a weird way to start. First offensive play of the game. This was almost like 2017. Remember, I was talking in the pregame preview about how JT Barrett started off the game with an interception. Now, he started that game off with a pick 6. However, the Buckeyes today flipped the script. Tanner McCalister comes up with the Buckeyes' 4th interception of the season, and he didn't score. And the Hawkeyes were actually able to hold the Buckeyes, and at least Ohio State got a field goal, so they take a 3-0 lead. Second offensive series of the game, however, right down on the other end, C.J. Stroud gets hit by linebacker Joe Evans on a blitz, unabated. Stroud goes to the ground. It looked kind of questionable, but replay held it up. He fumbled the ball. Evans scooped it up and took it 11 yards to the house on the second offensive series for Ohio State of the football game. And early, within the first 2 minutes played of the game, there had been 2 turnovers, one by each team, and Iowa held a 7-3 lead. However, after that, Ohio State would regroup. Iowa would only get 1 field goal for the rest of the game, and the Buckeyes would force 7 more turnovers. And typically, I like to start off talking about the offense, right? Because, I mean, that's been the team's bread and butter. But after seeing what I saw out of the defense today and seeing the stats that they have been putting up all year, I have to start off talking about what the defense did today. Once again, forcing 6 turnovers, 3 picks, 3 fumbles, 5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. Now, maybe those stats may be a little skewed because they were literally playing the worst offensive football team in the entire FBS. So yeah, your stats are probably going to look a little more impressive when you're playing a team that is not good on offense. In fact, the Buckeyes allowed Iowa only, let me find it here, folks, 158 total yards. 158. 81 through the air, 77 on the ground. And this is the third game now this season where Iowa has been unable to score an offensive touchdown. I mean, the defense did all they could do, and we're going to talk about Iowa's defense and Ohio State's offense here in a second, but I wanted to talk about Ohio State's defense and the crazy performance that they had. Once again, 6 turnovers on 3 picks, 3 fumbles, 5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Tanner McAllister not only had 1 of those picks, he had 2 of those picks, and in fact, all of the interceptions were firsts for the 2 Buckeyes that had them, 2 going to Tanner McAllister, 1 going late in the second quarter to Tommy Eichenberg, once again, down on the other end here, picked it off right over the middle. He was asked about it afterwards, and he just kind of was, I'm sure you've seen stuff from Tommy. He is not one to be real forthright when talking to the media. He is very short, very concise, doesn't have a lot to say. He's a very mild-mannered dude when he's talking to the media, and he just basically said, yeah, it was there and I took it. There was no other explanation from Tommy as far as what the defense was running or what he saw or anything. It's just the ball was there, and it looked like it too. I mean, Spencer Petras just threw it over the middle, and Tommy Eichenberg, I mean, he's just standing right there, boom, bang, 15-yard score into the end zone. And Tommy said that was the first pick 6 he had ever had in his career. And Tanner McAllister said it was the first 2 interception game that he had ever had in his career. And both guys said they never had one in high school either. So that's pretty cool that both guys get interceptions, an interception kind of day that goes down in their personal record books. And Eichenberg, not only that pick 6, finished second on the team today with 7 tackles, had 1 for loss. Lathan Ransom led the Buckeyes with 8 today. Cody Simon, a great game from him. Good to see him in there having some solid time on the field, not just playing special teams. He got in there and had himself a good game today. 6 tackles, 2 for loss, including a sack. Jerron Cage, 5 tackles on the day from the super senior defensive tackle. He had 1.5 tackles for loss, and that was part of a sack that he shared with freshman defensive end Caden Curry. And then how about Javante Jean Baptiste and JT Tuimoloau, who both had 2 tackles, including a sack. And then there was Zach Harrison, 2 tackles today, both for loss. 1 was a sack where he caused a fumble. And Ryan Day said that you're really seeing the best out of Zach Harrison. Had some great things to say in the postgame press conference about Zach Harrison. And, of course, you can go to the Columbus Wired YouTube channel and check out postgame interviews from Ryan Day, C.J. Stroud, and Coach Jim Knowles, as well as a little bit of Tommy Eichenberg. So be sure to check out our YouTube and check that out. Now, how about the offense today? Well, 54 points, right? You see 54 points and you think, man, Ohio State, they just had an unbelievable day through the air, on the ground. Just offensively, they look like, would you quit that hammering? Seriously, I'm trying to talk here. They just had an unbelievable game. I'm kidding. Keep doing what you're doing. No, don't actually. Yeah, thank you. They did not have quite the game that you would have thought that they would have had, scoring 54 points. Held to 360 total yards today were the Buckeyes. And granted, that was more than twice what Iowa's 7th-ranked defense were holding teams at 154 yards a game. But that was the 2nd lowest amount of total yards in a single game under a Ryan Day coach team since the 2020 national championship against Alabama, where they only gained 341. But today, second lowest amount of yards for a Ryan Day coach team. And we know Ryan Day's all about offense, but I think that just speaks to how good their defense is, and that's Iowa's defense. 7th rated in the country. They were the 2nd rated passing defense. They were like the 25th rated rushing defense, holding teams to like 110 yards, and we saw that today. And in fact, the Buckeyes, 66 yards rushing on the day. They had 1 touchdown, I believe, by Mayan Williams, and that is the lowest amount of rushing yards since last year's loss to Michigan, where they ran for 64 yards. So, having said that, 294 through the air, though, all coming on the arm of C.J. Stroud. He was 20 of 30, 286 yards, 4 touchdowns. However, he had that interception in the second half. First play, in fact, the second half started just about as weird as the first half started, right? Within the first 2 minutes of the game, there were 2 turnovers and the score was 7-3 Iowa. And then to start the second half, the Buckeyes had a nice 29-10 cushion. Nothing outstanding, but at least it was a 19-point lead at that time. The Buckeyes got the ball to start the second half, and C.J. Stroud came out, first play, immediately throws an interception. And he just chalked that up to he was just kind of getting into his head a little bit. He said he saw the coverage, he kind of knew what was going on. He just tried to force it, and it resulted in his 4th interception of the year. And that is now the 4th straight game for an interception by C.J. Stroud. And then, of course, there was the strip sack. So he ended the game with like a 184 rating. He came in as the only FBS quarterback to have a 200-plus rating on the year, 207. Probably going to come down a little bit after that. But, I mean, dude still threw 67% for 286 yards and 4 touchdowns. But an interception and a fumble, a play where he was both sacked and fumbled the ball that resulted in Iowa's only score. It does kind of lessen the performance a little bit. But I think you still got to take your hat off to C.J. Stroud. He's still having an unbelievable season. So through the air, also Marvin Harrison led the team, 7 catches. 3rd on the team with 62 yards, had a touchdown catch. Emeka Egbuka was 2nd on the team in both catches and yards, 6 for 80. He had a touchdown catch, but it was Julian Fleming who, on 2 catches, a whopping 2 catches on the day, led the team with 105 receiving yards, which included a 79-yard grab there early in the 4th quarter. That happened this way, down the left side of the field, going towards the closed end of the stadium, where he beat the Iowa defender, but C.J. Stroud had to just put it in the right spot. And man, that defender, he almost got his hand on it, but Fleming was able to haul it in, and the defender fell down, and he ran the rest of the way into the end zone for the 79-yard score. So all in all, was an interesting game today. Once again, a final score of 54-10. The Buckeyes get the win. It may not have been pretty, but as our boy Al Davis once said, just win, baby. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching. Until next week, the Buckeyes will be on the road at Penn State, Happy Valley. That should be a good one. But we will be bringing you some midweek interviews as we normally do. But until then, everybody, once again, thanks for watching. I'm Andy Evans. This is the Columbus Wired post-game recap. Y'all take care. Until the next time. See ya.